My guest this morning is Member of Parliament for Laventille East Mover, the Honourable Adrian Leonce. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Thank you for coming in this morning.
Thanks for having me.
And it's just been a week now since the protests erupted in Trinidad and Tobago. How are things in the community at this time?
Well, things are more or less back to normal in terms of the place being settled. There's no more protest action at the moment, but you know, people are still eager for the outcome of what is going on in terms of what would have initiated the whole response.
So what's the feeling on the ground? Because you walk the community. What's the feeling on the ground?
Well, the feeling on the ground is right now people are more or less being patient, you know, in terms of the outcome. There isn't a relief. Or persons just say, okay, well, we done, you know. It's more of, okay, the authorities are stepping in, investigations are happening, and we're hoping for a speedy outcome of what is going on.
Now, the incident that sort of created the eruption, I think the general public generally agreed with, you know, peaceful protests.
Yes.
Yeah. But when it came to the violence, I think that's when persons said, wait, hold up a minute, what's going on here? You're saying that things have come to a calm right now.
Yes.
But is it that persons have decided that, you know, because we had the theory that there was some sort of plot or some sort of conspiracy around because there was not that understanding as to how can you go from a peaceful protest to ammunitions on the ground and so on.
I would like the general public and the nation to separate those two things, because what is happening is people are losing focus as to what the real problem is in terms of what would have initiated the whole response, you know, and it's going more on some mischief that came about that people capitalized on because of what happened, you know, and one thing that is clear, the persons in the communities, the other communities that would have protested, a lot of them not in a very good way, they would have come out and say, listen, we want peace. You know, we want peace, and they have shown, based on the calm, that they are going to wait on peace. I spoke to one of the residents, and what they were saying is they wanted to make a statement to the TTPS in terms of this injustice, you know, or this perceived injustice, as we would say. And basically, I just think right now it's just about the speed, the quick response in terms of the investigation and some form of accountability. You know, Inspector Alexander would have come about and he would have said the PCA is doing their work, and he did promise the community that they would not just quick response, but also he would come to the community and give them account as to what would have transpired.
Now, I was listening to an interview with you yesterday on the radio, and you said that prior to the protests, that the factions had agreed to come together, the two factions, the warring factions. Can you shed some light on this?
Well, people generally don't want discomfort in their lives, you know, and sometimes it reaches a point where some of the people who engage in this so-called war, they're not even sure where this war initiated. And as I was speaking to one of the persons, the leaders in the community, they were saying, you know, I have a lot of nephews and nieces that live on the other side, and you know, this not making any sense. And a peace discussion has been going on for quite some time. So it was not something that just happened. It's something that was in the making for a long time. And if it is to say that this action that happened would have probably, you know, speed the resolution between the factions, may be true, but it's a discussion I know has been going on for quite some time.
So the theory that the two factions came together to go against the police, that has no veracity.
Well, I speak to some of the members in the community and some of the members, and I don't know anything about that. You know, I'm not here to go against whatever information the police would have, but the information I have and the communication that I would have with some of the members in the community, that discussion never came about.
Let's talk about community now. As the MP for the area, you would be aware of some of the challenges in the area. And if we dial back to some of the socio-economic concerns of the area, are there alternatives, opportunities for the young people in the community?
There are opportunities, and the opportunities that are there for all. You know, as I'm happy you listened to the interview yesterday. What I was explaining to the interviewer yesterday was the accessing of these opportunities seem to be a challenge. It's not always easy. So, for example, somebody like myself or my children, you know, being able to go to let's say a mechanic class, you know. They would say, well, you know, they want to go to the mechanic class. I'll say, okay, no problem. Have your breakfast. I'll give you some money to travel, make sure and get back on time, or some parents might even drop them and pick them back up and stuff. But then there's the challenge of the persons to go to the class. They may actually be the person that bringing in the meal.
Yeah.
Right? And the time of the class takes away from the time that they have to go and earn. You know, even having breakfast and having that transport is also a challenge for many families. You know, and as I serve the members in my community, people come and explain to me the challenges that they have when I put forward all these programs, and some of the restrictions some of the residents will have in terms of being able to access it, and they're very willing to do it. I've seen a number of residents in the community start programs, and because of the personal challenges, have to stop. You know, so these are things that we have been strategizing on in terms of how to break this and to bridge that gap, so that members of the community could really benefit on the opportunities that the government have been providing.
But you know, there are some who would say yes, and that's a credible response. But you also have some who are just not interested. Who I have spoken to teachers, not necessarily in your area, but in other areas where they said that, you know, they have attendance at 20%.
Yeah.
You know, some people are just not interested. They talk to the parents, they talk to the students, but they believe that there are alternatives, perhaps faster money, easier money. Is that a reality that you experience?
That is a reality, and we will be foolish to think that the rhetoric in the easy life is the better life is not real. What is happening is there's a whole generation of bad information that the youngsters would have been getting, and what they see is their experience. You know, so it's difficult when you don't have the experience, especially if your parent is not the person to say, well, listen, this is the way to do it. So a lot of it is a lot of there's also a gap there then in the parenting, right? There's a gap in the parenting, there's a gap in mentorship, and there's a gap in being able to see someone within your space that, listen, this actually works.
Yes.
You know, so that is where we try to pull out the ones that are interested and try to bring real examples so that the younger ones coming up could actually see and say, hey, look, this guy from down the street, he did it, he made it, you know, and put it forward. It's difficult even for young men who would say, well, look, Adrian Leonce, he lived down the street and he made it. But then they would start to compare the things the gaps that they have that I didn't have. You know, in terms of my parenting, I had both my parents with me, you know, that would have encouraged me, you know. Things were a bit different. So our objective right now is to get the persons who have that big gap, try to help them bridge that gap so they now can help mentor the persons in the community can help mentor the others. You know, and that will take some time. It's a process, because you remember teenage pregnancy is a real thing within the community, and a lot of the young ones who have children who didn't get that kind of teaching, how would they be able to impart that information? And then they're going to have children now. So it's a work in progress, and all hands, we need all hands on deck.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Now, is the area of Laventille East Mover unjustly stigmatized?
Well, the stigma is something that I think is due to what is being projected, right? So the negativity, and that's something generally in our society. We tend to want to project the negative things rather than the positive things.
Yeah.
You know, for me, when I see Laventille and Laventille East Move and persons who live in the community, we don't live that stigma within the community. We live our heroes, the Russell Latapes, we live the Dennis Lawrence. You know, we live the people that created the pan.
Yeah.
We live the culture. We live we being the heartbeat of the nation. We being the persons that would have built the city of Port of Spain. So we don't see that within our community. And you would know, when we have events and we come out and we have fun. So the stigma is really persons who don't understand the community, and people who don't understand the people in the community and the passion that we have. And I think that is just something that, as a nation, we have to decide, listen, what are we going to project? Are we going to project positivity, or are we going to project negativity? Because when we go outside and we try to present ourselves in our nice, innocent way, people see us in a different way. So the stigma is real, but the stigma is from the outside of what is being projected to us, of us.
And how can that be changed? How can that stigma be removed from the community, especially when, you know, people see the images of, you know, the violence, the crime, there's a fear. Some people just would not pass over the Lady Young or through the, you know, Eastern Main Road that runs through the Laventille East Mover area. How do you change that mindset?
Well, I think that the projection, we too in the community have to project that positivity, and we too also have to be able to be ambassadors of it. So the violence that would have happened and erupted, that doesn't help, right? So this social plan, this social improvement, this social building that we are doing, and I'm happy with the committee that the Prime Minister would have put forward in terms of giving assistance in dealing with the social issues, you know, and building that economic strength within the community, showing the businessmen within the community. If small businessmen within my community have been great assistance in the COVID. So we would have done a lot of hampers and stuff, and the guys who would have had the little grass cutting contracts and stuff, they would have come and say, hey, MP, let me help you out and do this and that, you know, and I've seen the economic building in the community, helping the community, and making a sustainable community. So as we develop that and we build sustainability within our community, the stigma will eventually reside.
I find it interesting that you talk about the businesses, the small businesses in the community, and building a sustainable community, because there are those who think of Laventille East Mover synonymous with the dependency syndrome. Talk to me about that.
Well, I would tell you, you know, when I just started, a lot of groups would have come to me and say, you know, MP, we want help with this. We want to have an event, whether it be for the children or stuff. And as the businesses, we started doing business initiatives. And I have seen persons who would have actually gone and registered a business. We taught them in terms of how to register with different agencies, and they would have been developing in terms of their business strength. I've seen that instead of coming and asking me, you know, we want to help with the tents and that, they just say, MP, come in. You know, we have an event Saturday, just come and show your face, you know? So the dependency is being broken slowly but surely. And I think building economic activity also would also help within the employment, because they themselves employ the persons within the community. And I mean, these guys I'm speaking about are young men. One, and I'm sure he's 30 yet. He have a nice tent rental company, and he's doing pretty good. His van, his equipment is all over the place, and I'm very proud of these people in the community, because these young men prove that we have the ability to have economic strength and maintain our community and employ our community and keep that self-sustainability going.
Now, Trinidad and Tobago, like the rest of the Caribbean, is a matrifocal society, very female-headed. And I remember doing a documentary a few years ago we've changed it from at risk to at potential on this show, right? Right. Nicola Harvey uses that term, and we really appreciate it.
Powerful speaker.
Very extremely. And one of the things that one of the young men said is that, at the age of 10, that's the vulnerable age in the community. In the absence of the mother who might have to go out and work, as you said earlier, there's no male role model in the house, and they turn to the streets, and the streets become the role model for these young men. Talk to us about that reality as well.
Well, in terms of young men and the role models, this is where the young guy that I spoke about is we have to stay in our community and fill that gap, because the teachers, and I would say we have remarkable persons in the community that really take that role as a teacher. They go way beyond, there's a certain level of passion that we have in teachers, in the different schools. And we have to take a responsibility. The men in the community have to take a responsibility for the other youngsters, because it is a reality that there are a lot of single mothers. So we can't bring their fathers back. Some of their fathers would have made bad choices also. So the men have to do extra work in terms of bridging the gap. Football coaches in the area have been doing a remarkable jobs in terms of pulling youngsters together. And it's not just football where the youngsters come and they enjoy a sport, they're passionate about a sport, but there's also being able to speak with them at that point in time, being able to impart the knowledge and the parenting that they would have missed. There's also the music. Right Tunes had a program where some of the members of the protective services would have done a music program, developing the youngsters, giving them musical instruments that we would typically can't afford, and they would have also helped in bridging that gap. So a lot is being done to help bridge the gap in the absence of the father figure, as you would put it there. And I'm saying that is also a work in progress, and that will be developed as time go by, because the same youngsters now would then become ambassadors. And even though it might be up their peers, they too can lend in that parenting also.
Yes.
Even they being their peers.
We have just a few minutes to go, and in the remaining moments, do you see a light at the end of the tunnel? Do you see the police and the community coming together and working together in a positive way?
I do, and that's another thing. I don't want the nation to feel that the police and the community don't work together, because they do. We have a very strong community police. We have good interactions with the community police, and I have great relationships with them. We did a number of events together, and I'm saying that this incident here, we need to address that, solve that, because in all relationships, different things happen, and we get away, but we could always come back, we talk, and we make it up. But justice is something that I think is deserved with all persons.
Were you able to speak with the families?
Yes, I did. I visited them. There's little they can tell somebody that's going through grief. I'm not a psychologist, So all I can do is lend whatever little support that I can give. We spoke briefly about after all of this, you know, in terms of the assistance, because grief is something that when all the hype gone and everybody gone, you yourself there, you have to deal with the grief, you have to deal with your lost one, you know, and whatever assistance I can give, I would always lend it.
Okay. MP for the area, Laventille East Mover. Our time is up. I'm sure we're going to have you back again on the program.
You know, you could always have me back.
All right. Thank you. I'm keeping you to that.
Yes.
Keeping you that. The Honorable Adrian Leonce, Member of Parliament for Laventille East Mover, very much bringing some more light to the situation as we've experienced over the past few weeks. We're going to take in a few messages and come right back here on the Now Morning Show.